From the ashes of World War II, Germany's national airline rose not only as one of the world's oldest carriers, but as a symbol of revival, precision, and the unyielding German spirit. Lufthansa's story began in 1926, endured the chaos of war, and was completely dissolved by 1945. Yet less than a decade later, it was reborn, taking flight again in 1955 and marking the dawn of a new era for West German aviation. Since then, Lufthansa has grown relentlessly, becoming a founding member of the Star Alliance, setting industry standards with premium service and a cutting-edge fleet. Through financial crises, labor strikes, and even the COVID-19 pandemic, the airline has consistently adapted and persevered, securing its place as Europe's iron horse of the skies. You'll be amazed by what Lufthansa has weathered in nearly 100 years of conquering the skies. If you think this story deserves to be told, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And subscribe now to catch the next video in the series. Lufthansa's roots trace back to 1926, when Deutsche Lufthansa was founded in Berlin through the merger of Deutscher Aerollloyd and Junkers Luftverkehr. As Germany's national flag carrier, the original Lufthansa was a pioneer in commercial aviation during the interwar period. In the 1930s, the airline became closely aligned with the Nazi regime, primarily focusing on aircraft maintenance and repair during World War II, often relying on forced labor at sites such as Berlin's Tempelhof Airport. By the end of the war in 1945, Lufthansa had halted all operations. Under Allied occupation, Germany's aircraft were confiscated, and due to the airline's wartime affiliations, its assets were formally liquidated in 1951. Several former leaders from that era came under scrutiny. One prominent figure was Kurt Weigelt, a former director who had been convicted as a war criminal but later played a central role in helping to re-establish Lufthansa in the post-war period. A Lufthansa Convair C V440 Metropolitan, parked beside a company service vehicle in the 1950s, captured the visual identity of the airline's early post-war fleet. In the early 1950s, as West Germany initiated its economic revival, a blueprint was drafted to establish a new national airline. On January 6, 1953, a company named Aktiengesellschaft für Luftverkehrsbedarf, abbreviated as Lufttag, was founded in Cologne. The organization was staffed predominantly by veterans of the pre-war Deutsche Lufthansa. Although initially lacking flight rights, Lufttag pressed ahead by ordering modern aircraft such as the Convair CV340 and the Lockheed Super Constellation, while concurrently developing a technical base in Hamburg. In August 1954, Lufttag formally acquired the rights to the Lufthansa brand, including its name, crane emblem, and signature blue and yellow color scheme, for a nominal fee. The company was subsequently rebranded as Deutsche Lufthansa AG. After navigating through post-war regulatory barriers, the new Lufthansa launched commercial operations on April 1, 1955. Using Convair aircraft, it began scheduled domestic flights connecting Hamburg, Frankfurt, Cologne, and Munich. International expansion was swift. By May 1955, routes were added to London, Paris, and Madrid. By June 1955, the airline was operating transatlantic services to New York using super constellations. In 1956, it extended its reach to the South Atlantic. Lufthansa distinguished itself with unique service standards. One notable example came in 1958 when it introduced the Red Rose as a signature amenity for first-class passengers on long-haul flights. Geopolitical factors also shaped the airline's growth. During the Cold War, West German carriers were prohibited from operating flights to Berlin due to Allied restrictions. As a result, Lufthansa developed Frankfurt Airport into its central hub by 1958, a position it retains today. Though there were discussions about relocating headquarters to Berlin after German reunification in 1990, these plans were never executed, solidifying Frankfurt's role as the airline's primary international gateway. Meanwhile, East Germany sought to establish its own Lufthansa-branded airline in 1955, but international legal disputes led to its dissolution. In its place, Interflug emerged in 1963 as East Germany's national carrier. By the late 1950s, Lufthansa was preparing to assert itself in a rapidly transforming industry. As jet aircraft revolutionized global air travel, Lufthansa moved decisively to join the jet age. In 1958, it placed a major order for the Boeing 707, and by March 1960, the airline inaugurated its first jet-powered transatlantic service from Frankfurt to New York. This significantly reduced flight times and re-established Lufthansa as a top-tier international carrier. The early 1960s marked a period of aggressive network expansion. By 1961, Lufthansa had added long-haul routes to Bangkok, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. African destinations followed in 1962, with scheduled flights to Lagos and Johannesburg. These moves solidified Lufthansa's status as West Germany's global aviation ambassador. In 1964, Lufthansa added the Boeing 727 to its fleet, opening a pioneering polar route to Tokyo via Anchorage. In 1965, it became the launch customer for the Boeing 737, the first short-haul twin-jet, ordering 21 units and placing the first Boeing 737-100 into service in 1968. Lufthansa was notably the first non-US airline to launch a new Boeing model, reinforcing its strategic ties with major manufacturers. Alongside fleet modernization, the airline invested heavily in infrastructure and human capital. A new pilot training program was launched, with advanced simulators and training centers, some relocated to the United States. In 1967, Lufthansa implemented one of Europe's earliest electronic reservation systems, streamlining operations and improving customer service efficiency. Branding and customer experience also evolved. Lufthansa's yellow and blue livery became iconic, with cabin crew donning bright uniforms that reflected the optimistic spirit of the 1960s. The airline's long-standing crane logo, dating to 1918, was retained to convey continuity and trust. Notably, Kurt Weigelt, a former board member from the Nazi era, served as chairman of the supervisory board until 1960. His involvement reflected both the legacy and the complexity of Germany's corporate reconstruction. Following his departure, a new generation of executives took charge, guiding Lufthansa through rapid modernization. By the close of the 1960s, Lufthansa had emerged as a symbol of West Germany's post-war resurgence. It had built a vast international network, invested in cutting-edge aviation technology, and established itself as one of the world's most recognizable carriers, ready to enter the 1970s at the forefront of commercial aviation. Lufthansa's wide-body era began with a bold move. On April 26, 1970, it became the first European airline to operate the Boeing 747, launching the Frankfurt-New York route. This cemented its place as a serious global carrier. More wide-bodies followed DC-10 in 1974, Airbus A300 in 1976, and the Airbus A310 by 1979, reflecting a commitment to efficient, modern aircraft. The 1970s oil crises strained finances, but under CEO Herbert Kuhlmann, Lufthansa cut costs, centralized its network via Frankfurt, and emerged stronger. By the mid-1980s, it resumed expansion, ordering Airbus A320s, Boeing 737-300s, and new long-haul jets like the Boeing 747-400 and Airbus A340. A sleek rebrand came in 1988, and Lufthansa helped launch Amadeus in 1987, pushing ahead in aviation tech. By 1990, with Germany reunified and services restored to Berlin, Lufthansa had transformed into a lean, high-tech global airline, ready for the next chapter. The 1990s were a turning point for Lufthansa. Between 1994 to 1997, the airline was fully privatized, marking its break from state control. Key operations were restructured into subsidiaries, Lufthansa Technik, Lufthansa Cargo, and Lufthansa Systems, while it expanded into catering, leisure travel, and regional carriers like CityLine. Lufthansa was no longer just an airline, it had become a full-fledged aviation group. In 1997, it co-founded Star Alliance, the world's first global airline network, boosting international reach and customer benefits. That same decade, Lufthansa also confronted its past by contributing to compensation efforts for forced labor during World War II and commissioning a historical review. Under the leadership of CEO Wolfgang Mayruber, the airline expanded aggressively, acquiring SWISS in 2005, Austrian Airlines in 2009, and beginning its takeover of Brussels Airlines in 2009, while also developing low-cost brands such as Eurowings and Germanwings. It also invested in modern jets like the Airbus, A380, and Boeing 747-8i, and became the first airline to offer onboard Wi-Fi in 2004. Entering the 2010s, Lufthansa faced mounting challenges, declining profits, labor unrest, and a devastating tragedy that would redefine the airline's path. In 2012, Lufthansa reported significant losses and launched a major restructuring, cutting 3,500 administrative jobs. To better compete with low-cost carriers, it shifted most European short-haul flights outside major hubs to Germanwings. Despite short-term setbacks, the airline placed a record order in 2013 for 159 new aircraft, signaling long-term commitment. Labor disputes intensified between 2014 and 2015, with pilot strikes disrupting hundreds of flights. Amid the unrest, Carsten Spohr was appointed CEO, tasked with modernizing operations and stabilizing the company. In March 2015, tragedy struck when Germanwings Flight 9525 was deliberately crashed by the co-pilot, killing all 150 people on board. Described as the darkest day in Lufthansa's 60-year history, the incident led to new cockpit safety rules and greater focus on mental health screening. Lufthansa pressed on with its transformation. In 2016, it retired its entire Boeing 737 fleet after nearly 50 years, replacing it with fuel-efficient Airbus A320neos and Airbus A350s. After Air Berlin's collapse in 2017, Lufthansa acquired much of its fleet and strengthened its domestic dominance. That same year, it earned a prestigious 5-star Skytrax rating. In 2018, Lufthansa unveiled a new visual identity. The yellow background behind its crane logo was dropped in favor of a sleek dark blue tail with a minimalist white crane, symbolizing a new digital and premium era. CEO Spohr called it the final touch in Lufthansa's transformation. As the 2020s began, Lufthansa faced its toughest challenge yet, the COVID-19 pandemic. In early 2020, passenger demand collapsed, forcing the airline to ground 95% of its flights and store hundreds of aircraft. Losses reached €1 million per hour, prompting a shift to cargo operations and emergency repatriation flights. To survive, Lufthansa secured a €9 billion bailout from the German government in June 2020, including a 20% temporary state stake. By 2022, the airline had repaid most loans and returned to private ownership ahead of schedule. The crisis led to major restructuring. Older aircraft like the Airbus A340 and Airbus A380 were retired, though some Airbus A380s were later reactivated, and thousands of staff left voluntarily. Passenger numbers dropped over 75% in 2020, but the airline used the downturn to invest in digitization and cargo. By 2023, Lufthansa had rebounded, reopening long-haul routes and regaining strength in the European market, including plans to acquire a stake in ITA Airways. Leaner, more efficient, and innovation-focused, Lufthansa emerged ready for the future. As Lufthansa approaches its centennial, the airline stands as a testament to resilience and reinvention. From its origins in early aviation to its leadership in today's global airline alliances, Lufthansa has continually evolved technologically, commercially, and culturally. Guided by a legacy of bold leadership and a forward-looking strategy centered on sustainability and innovation, it remains not just Germany's flag carrier, but a symbol of global connectivity and aviation excellence ready to lead the skies of tomorrow.